Hello all, and thank you for tuning into an edition of the Western Sydney Insider. This channel is brought to you by the members of the community and the resourcefulness of a uni student. My name is Emily Casser, and today's topic is on the New South Wales Government Newstart Allowance Program. A couple of months ago, I spoke with the CEO of Anglicare Sydney, Grant Millard. I'd originally rang him about a comment for the June budget cuts and how it was affecting mothers on the baby bonus. We got talking, and eventually he mentioned the Newstart program issues.
I suppose the great disappointment really of the federal budget was the failure of the government to address the incredibly low level of the Newstart allowance. There has been a long-standing call. In fact, I believe there was a vote in the floor of Parliament, federal Parliament last week, where there was a resolution to the effect that Newstart is acknowledged as being too low.
You're eligible for the program if you're looking for work between the ages of 22 and 65 or meet the income and assets requirement.
We know that the level of Newstart, roughly $35 a day, is just woefully inadequate.
The Australian Securities and Investments Commission show an average Australian spends $900 a week, and if you're a couple with a child under 5, $1,500. In January this year, Grant tells me the threshold for earned income was raised to $62 a fortnight, or $31 a week. These low-income earners have been the same people Grant has seen go through Anglicare emergency relief centres.
Everyone regards this as too low, employer groups certainly, and particularly those who are dealing with clients who depend on Newstart, and we do with that through people attending our emergency relief centres, people who can't afford to pay their rent or feed their families. We see about 26,000 people through our own emergency relief centres every year.
After talking with Grant, I was beginning to see a trend in the types of people that could really lose out receiving government assistance. I wanted to hear the perspective of single mothers, particularly those on Newstart and perhaps other government assistance. This led me to Terese Edwards, the CEO of the National Council of Single Mothers. Terese has been pushing for government intervention coming up to the September elections. She's been gaining momentum with online petitions.
It's been problematic about having access to the latest school books, certainly internet, the school uniforms, being able to play sport, healthcare. So it really is, it's really been quite distressing, and it's turned a family who are already doing it pretty tough and who are already experiencing financial hardship. If once they were moved from the parenting payment single, it has really spiraled them into greater hardship and poverty.
I asked Sue what she'd seen happen to single mothers or low-income families living on minimum wages and how it affected children in that situation.
The longer that families are forced to try and survive on the Newstart payment, which is 77% below the poverty line, the more disastrous their circumstances are. And the other part of this equation, probably a very important part, is that a job in itself won't recuperate those losses. So what we found out by the families, the 80,000 families who were impacted on the 1st of January, what we found out is that 2/3 of these families were already in the workforce. And they're the families that have suffered the highest financial loss. And that is because on Newstart, there is this situation, and it's called the earning thresholds. And so what that means is once an amount, a very low amount of $32 per week is earned, any amount above that reduces the payment. So if I compare that to a mum on parenting payment single with 3 children, she could earn and keep $125 per week. As soon as her youngest child was 8 or older and they're on Newstart, that reduces to $31 per week. So the ability to work yourself out of poverty is really difficult because of those earning thresholds.
Terese told me a story about a single mother who had to leave her daughter with a trusted family friend. She could no longer support her due to financial hardship. I could tell Terese was passionate about the cause. It was hard not to be. I had one last question for Terese. What steps would you like to see the government take to resolve this issue?
The other point that I really want to talk about is that this is not a lost cause, or nor is it insurmountable to fix. And so when I go back to Bob Hawke in the late 1980s, who made that infamous claim, along with raising it as a national issue, he actually reduced poverty by 30%. So it can be done, and it can be done, and in my view, there is nothing more important than child poverty, because why have a fantastic education system if we've got a group of kids that will just never be able to access it, to use it, to be engaged in it? For me, if you're really looking at cutting homelessness, this is a really good start. If we're looking at the viability of our country and productivity, this is a really good place to start. So I would argue that it ticks the boxes in what is socially correct, which is human rights, it's morally correct, and it's economically correct. So it's difficult to defend why you would turn a blind eye to the increase in child poverty in Australia, and why you just don't make those connections between the inadequacy of support payments and child poverty. It seems, for me, just the most obvious thing to do. So I would really, I suppose my plea is for people to really see it as such a key issue. It can galvanise all of us in the community, and it can make such a difference to people's lives. Like just being able to go from week to week knowing that when they go to bed at night, their house is safe. When they get up in the morning, there'll be enough food for breakfast. When they kiss their child goodbye, that they won't be the children who are going to fall out of school because they haven't got the right school shoes or they haven't got the right books. These are really basic things in Australia, and as one of the richest countries in the world, we should be actually quite ashamed of our situation, and we all should get a bit outraged over it.
Terese had a point. In 2012, Australia ranked 18 out of around 200 countries, with $961 billion in purchasing power parity. That's a lot of gold coins. The 2013 September elections is where people like Terese are hoping for change in up until now what has been the skeleton in what seems to be Australia's closet. This has been Emily Casa for an edition of the Western Sydney Insider. A big thank you to Terese and Grant for speaking with me, and a thank you to everyone for listening.